Imagine this, it's the 1950s. The sun is setting over an endless American highway. A sleek, chrome-covered car zooms past, its engine growling like a beast unleashed. The sound is deep, powerful, and unmistakable. This isn't just any car, it's a symbol of an era. But why did American cars in the 1950s have such massive engines? Was it just about raw power, or was there something deeper driving this obsession? Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of 1950s American cars. We'll explore the cultural, economic, and engineering reasons behind these iconic machines and how they shaped America's love affair with big engines. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the 1950s were the golden age of American automotive engineering and how these big engines reflected the spirit of the times. The post-war boom, the culture of optimism and excess. The 1950s were a time of incredible change in America. World War II had just ended, and the country was riding a wave of economic prosperity. Factories that once built tanks and planes were now producing cars, refrigerators, and televisions. For the first time, the middle class was growing, and ordinary families had disposable income to spend on luxuries. Cars became more than just a way to get around, they were a symbol of freedom, success, and the American dream. Bigger was better. Big homes, big TVs, and, of course, big cars. A massive engine under the hood wasn't just about performance, it was a way to show off your success and status. Imagine this, it's a sunny Saturday morning in 1955. A typical American family piles into their brand new Cadillac or Chevrolet. The kids are excited, the parents are proud, and the open road is calling. The car gleams in the sunlight, its chrome details sparkling. As the engine roars to life, the family feels like they're on top of the world. This isn't just a car, it's a statement. It says, "We've made it." This cultural mindset directly influenced car design. Big engines weren't just a luxury, they were a necessity for anyone who wanted to keep up with the times. They represented power, freedom, and the optimism of a nation that believed anything was possible. The economic factors driving engine size. The economic boom of the 1950s wasn't just about disposable income, it was also about the availability of cheap gasoline. With oil prices low and stable, there was little concern about fuel efficiency. This economic environment allowed car manufacturers to focus on power and performance rather than economy. Imagine filling up your tank for mere pennies compared to today's prices. The cost of fuel was so low that drivers didn't think twice about taking long road trips or cruising around town. This abundance of cheap fuel directly influenced the design of cars, leading to the prevalence of big, powerful engines. The economic stability also meant that manufacturers could invest heavily in research and development. They poured resources into creating more powerful and efficient engines, leading to rapid advancements in automotive technology. This investment paid off, as the engines of the 1950s became some of the most iconic and reliable in automotive history. Engineering marvels, the rise of V8 engines. The 1950s weren't just about style and status, they were also a golden age of engineering. Advances in technology made V8 engines more accessible and reliable than ever before. These engines, which were once reserved for luxury cars, became affordable for the average American. Car manufacturers like Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler were in a fierce race to outdo each other. Each year, they'd release cars with bigger, more powerful engines. It wasn't just about selling cars, it was about proving who could build the best machine. This competition pushed the boundaries of what cars could do, leading to some of the most iconic engines in history. One of the most revolutionary engines of the era was the Chevrolet small block V8, introduced in 1955. It was lightweight, powerful, and, most importantly, affordable. For the first time, the average person could own a car with a V8 engine. This engine was so well designed that it's still used in some cars today. Imagine the excitement of a 1950s car buyer driving off the lot in a brand new Chevy, feeling the raw power of that small block V8 for the first time. It wasn't just a car, it was a game changer. These engines weren't just about speed, they were about innovation. They represented a shift in what cars could be, setting the stage for the muscle cars of the 1960s. The V8 engine became a symbol of American ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of progress. The role of racing and motorsports. The 1950s also saw the rise of motorsports and racing culture in America. Events like the Indianapolis 500 and NASCAR races became national spectacles, drawing massive crowds and media attention. Car manufacturers saw these races as the perfect platform to showcase their engineering prowess. Winning on the track translated to sales in the showroom. Companies like Ford and Chevrolet invested heavily in racing teams, using the technology and innovations from the track to improve their production cars. The V8 engines, with their superior power and performance, were a direct result of this racing influence. Imagine the roar of engines at a 1950s racetrack. The air is filled with the scent of fuel and the excitement of the crowd. Drivers push their machines to the limit, showcasing the raw power and reliability of these American-made engines. This wasn't just about winning races, it was about proving that American engineering was the best in the world. The success of these racing engines trickled down to consumer cars, making them faster, more reliable, and more exciting to drive. The connection between racing and everyday cars became a selling point, with ads boasting about track-proven performance. This further fueled the public's desire for big, powerful engines. The open road, America's love affair with highways. The 1950s weren't just about cars, they were also about the roads they drove on. This was the decade when the interstate highway system was born. For the first time, Americans had a network of smooth, well-maintained roads that stretched across the country. These highways connected cities, towns, and rural areas, making long-distance travel easier and more enjoyable than ever before. Big engines were perfect for these new highways. They offered smooth, powerful rides over long distances. Whether you were driving from New York to California or just cruising down Route 66, a big engine made the journey more comfortable and exciting. It wasn't just about getting from point A to point B, it was about enjoying the ride. Imagine this, it's 1957, and you're behind the wheel of a Chevrolet Bel Air. The engine purrs as you hit the open road. The windows are down, the radio is playing Elvis Presley, and the landscape flies by in a blur of colors. You're driving on Route 66, the most famous highway in America. The power of the engine isn't just about speed, it's about the freedom to explore. Every mile feels like an adventure, and every turn brings something new. Big engines weren't just a luxury, they were a practical response to America's expanding road network. They made long-distance travel easier and more enjoyable, fueling the country's love affair with the open road. The influence of design and aesthetics. The 1950s were not just about what was under the hood. Design and aesthetics played a crucial role in the allure of American cars. The sleek, chrome-laden designs were a reflection of the era's fascination with futurism and space exploration. Car designers drew inspiration from the burgeoning space age, incorporating elements like tail fins and wraparound windshields. These design features weren't just for show, they symbolized progress and the promise of a brighter future. The 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, with its iconic tail fins, is a perfect example of this design philosophy. Imagine cruising down the street in a car that looks like it's straight out of a science fiction movie. The chrome accents gleam under the streetlights, and the tail fins give the car a sense of motion even when it's standing still. This wasn't just about looking good, it was about embodying the spirit of innovation and adventure. The combination of powerful engines and striking design made these cars irresistible to consumers. They weren't just buying a car, they were buying into a vision of the future, one that was bold, exciting, and uniquely American. The rise of car customization. The 1950s saw a surge in car customization, with owners modifying their vehicles to reflect their personal style and enhance performance. This trend was driven by the hot rod culture, where enthusiasts would soup up their cars with bigger engines, flashy paint jobs, and custom interiors. Imagine a group of friends gathering in a garage, tools in hand, as they work on transforming an ordinary sedan into a hot rod. The sound of metal grinding and the smell of fresh paint fill the air. This wasn't just about making the car look good, it was about pushing the limits of what it could do. Customization shops sprang up across the country, offering services like engine tuning, body modifications, and bespoke upholstery. These shops became hubs for car enthusiasts, fostering a community of innovation and creativity. The customized cars that rolled out of these garages were more than just vehicles, they were expressions of individuality and craftsmanship. The customization trend also influenced mainstream car design. Manufacturers began offering more options and accessories, allowing buyers to personalize their cars straight from the factory. This further fueled the demand for big engines, as owners sought to make their cars faster and more powerful. The impact on American culture and society. The big engines of the 1950s had a profound impact on American culture and society. They influenced everything from music and movies to fashion and lifestyle. The car became a central part of the American identity, shaping how people lived, worked, and played. Drive-in theaters, diners, and motels became popular hangout spots, catering to the new car culture. Teenagers would cruise around town, showing off their rides and socializing with friends. The car became a symbol of freedom and independence, especially for the younger generation. Imagine a Friday night in a small American town. The main street is filled with shiny cars, their engines rumbling as they cruise slowly down the strip. Teenagers lean out of windows, waving to friends and blasting the latest rock and roll tunes. This wasn't just about having fun, it was about being part of a community, a shared experience that defined a generation. The car culture of the 1950s also influenced fashion, with styles like greaser jackets and poodle skirts becoming iconic. Movies like American Graffiti and Grease later captured this nostalgia, showcasing the enduring appeal of the era's car culture. The big engines weren't just a fad, they were a catalyst for cultural change. Marketing and pop culture, selling the dream. In the 1950s, car companies didn't just sell cars, they sold dreams. Their ads were bold, aspirational, and full of promises. They didn't talk about fuel efficiency or practicality, they talked about power, freedom, and success. Big engines were front and center in these campaigns. Ads showed cars speeding down open highways, families enjoying road trips, and young couples living the good life. The message was clear: a big engine wasn't just a feature, it was a lifestyle. Cars with massive engines didn't just dominate the roads, they dominated pop culture too. Movies, music, and TV shows of the era glorified these powerful machines. Think of James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, revving up his car in a dramatic race scene. Or the rise of hot rod culture, where teenagers customized their cars to go faster and look cooler. These cars weren't just vehicles, they were symbols of rebellion, independence, and youth. Picture this, it's a scene from a 1950s movie. The hero, a young, rebellious character, slides into the driver's seat of a sleek, powerful car. The engine roars to life, and the camera zooms in on his determined face. He's not just driving, he's making a statement. The car becomes an extension of his personality, a symbol of his freedom and defiance. This wasn't just entertainment, it was a reflection of the era's values. Big engines became ingrained in the American psyche. They weren't just about transportation, they were about identity. They represented power, freedom, and the spirit of a nation that believed in pushing boundaries. The environmental impact and shifting priorities. As the 1950s gave way to the 1960s, the environmental impact of big engines began to come into focus. The sheer size and power of these engines meant they consumed more fuel and produced more emissions than their smaller counterparts. This raised concerns about air pollution and the depletion of natural resources. Imagine the smog-filled skies of major cities, where the exhaust from countless big engine cars contributed to a growing environmental crisis. The public began to demand cleaner, more efficient vehicles, and the government responded with regulations aimed at reducing emissions. The oil crisis of the 1970s further shifted priorities, as the once abundant supply of cheap fuel became uncertain. Car manufacturers were forced to adapt, focusing on fuel efficiency and emissions control. This marked the beginning of the end for the era of big engines, as smaller, more economical cars became the norm. The shift in priorities wasn't just about environmental concerns, it was also about economic necessity. With fuel prices rising, consumers sought cars that were cheaper to operate. This led to the development of compact cars and the adoption of new technologies like fuel injection and catalytic converters. The legacy: why big engines faded. By the 1960s and 1970s, the era of big engines began to fade. The world was changing, and so were priorities. Concerns about fuel efficiency, emissions, and the oil crisis forced car manufacturers to rethink their designs. Smaller, more efficient engines became the norm, and the days of massive V8s dominating the roads were numbered. But even as big engines faded, the 1950s remained a nostalgic era for car enthusiasts. Those big engines weren't just about horsepower, they were a reflection of a nation's confidence, ambition, and dreams. They symbolized a time when America was unapologetically bold, pushing boundaries and embracing the future with open arms. The big engines of the 1950s weren't just machines, they were a statement. They represented power, freedom, and the spirit of a nation that believed anything was possible. And that's why they still captivate us today. Outro. So, there you have it, a deep dive into the world of 1950s American cars and their massive engines. These iconic machines were more than just vehicles, they were symbols of an era defined by optimism, innovation, and the pursuit of the American dream. What's your favorite 1950s car? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into automotive history.